Welcome back to another episode of A Guide to Poor Parenting, a podcast where me, Jason,
and me, Jennifer,
have a few drinks
and talk shit about our kids.
Please follow us on Instagram at Guide to Poor Parenting. I think there was another one too, wasn't it? I don't know. It's Instagram for sure at Guide to Poor Parenting.
And Twitter, Facebook, TikTok at Poor Parent Pod.
Yes, and we are blessed to be joined by my dear friend, Jeremiah. Say hi, Jeremiah.
Hello, folks. How are y'all doing?
We are so grateful you came onto this podcast. I was telling Jeremiah earlier that we had asked my friend Judith to come on because she was going to be our experiment for remote podcasts, and we'd actually recorded an entire episode with her about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't hit record, so we just had to waste the entire hour. And I called her back or texted her, and I was like, "Could you do it again?" She's like, "Yeah," and I misread it, and I thought she wanted to do it today. And then Jennifer was like, "I'm on my way from the thing." I was like, "Oh shit, let me call Jeremiah and see if he could do it." Well, thank you for saving our asses, Jeremiah. We appreciate you.
I'm really excited that you asked me to be here, so thank you for inviting me.
Yay. All right. So because this is so last second, what are we all drinking since we're all drinking different things?
Lord.
Box wine.
Yeah, box wine day. It's a box wine day here. I wish you could see this Bota Mini Cabernet Sauvignon that we're drinking.
We have a Bota box, and that's what Jennifer's drinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
white wine. Yay.
Cheers. She's got our fan favorite, our pod favorite wine. She's got the...
I thought yours was a Bota box.
No, mine's Costco. Mine's Kirkland. Ah. Jennifer's is the Bota box bourbon barrel-aged Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah. It is so yummy. You have to try it. Very good. If you can find it.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at mine. I don't know. Mine is... Cabernet Sauvignon, but I don't think it's oak barrel aged. Now I'm looking.
No, it'll say on there. Like ours is a big, kind of dark brown box, and it says bourbon barrel aged.
No, I just have the cheap shit. So this is where we are.
Hey, you know what?
This isn't that expensive, but it has a higher alcohol content because it's aged in the bourbon barrel. So that's why I like it. Yep.
And I'm drinking some Kirkland brand Pinot Grigio box. I was walking around Costco and I saw it. I'm like, ooh, it's hot as fuck outside. I want some cool wine. I like reds, but only when it's cold outside because it's fucking hot as shit. Although not as hot as San Antonio, I would imagine.
No, it's just 106. So we decided to clean out the garage today. So, I just stumbled from the chiropractor back in from the outside, and so let's drink some red wine and see if I'm not dehydrated enough to make it through this podcast.
Oh my god, I bet you got some swamp ass.
Just for y'all.
Just for us. Jeremiah, you and I go way back. We have known each other since 2000, I think, isn't it?
It would be right around 2000, 99, 2000.
Yeah, so 25 years.
When you say it like that, it sounds like we're old or something.
Because we are.
Obviously not old enough to know better, but...
When I haven't seen... Last time I saw Jeremiah was probably... What was it, 5 or 6 years ago when I was in San Antonio last? It was before we had kids.
It was before you had kids.
Yeah, I think you are...
They're 10 and 9 now.
Yeah, you had yours... but Zay and I came into town. We went to Schlitterbahn, and then we met up with you, and you still looked relatively the same from I don't know, from probably 10, 15 years ago. And then when you got on the podcast, when you got on the call today, I was like, God damn, Jeremiah. It's all white haired.
There may be a little bit of stress in my life. Just a little.
Kids. There's
some kids. We have the unfortunate genetics in my family where once you go completely. My mom was completely white haired at 30. And I started getting white hair at 15. So it just caught up to me very, very quickly about 38. And probably within that whole year, it just started marching out. So I still have hair, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, right. You got me beat on that one.
You can't see it. He's got a lot of gray in his beard.
Yeah. My beard's gone. And if I let it grow out, it gets very obvious.
Yeah.
So, how old are you now? You 45?
I am 44, sir.
4? Okay. I don't know. I'm 40. I'm 46, about to be 47.
We're just about a year apart, so I'll be 45 in November.
Okay. Yeah, Feej and I are 2 months apart. And Feej, we have talked about him on this podcast many a time because he has the most horrific stories from his kids. And so I can't wait to get him on the podcast. But he is not only a full-time flight attendant, but he is also a nurse. He got his nursing degree because he was not busy enough, apparently.
Well, because being a flight attendant is not stressful at all. So let's be a nurse.
Yeah.
And he has 6 kids now, right?
Yes, they're all out of the house except for the last one.
It's because he was smart. He had older children when he started adopting.
Smart's not the word I would use.
Insane.
Married to a man that would bring home children without asking him is how I would phrase it.
Yeah. I don't think we'd be married very long.
Oh, Feach on many occasions went on a long haul flight to Asia for like a week, came back and had a new kid. And that happened 3 times.
At least Feach didn't bring one back from Asia. I feel like that's illegal.
Well, that wouldn't be his kid.
Well, not till he'd had him for 6 years. All right, Jeremiah, so let's go back in time. When did we meet? We met in 99. Do you remember how we met in college? Was it through Lambda?
It was through Lambda.
Okay.
And what is Lambda?
It's a Texas gay thing. We got a whole other culture here, y'all.
It was the LGBT youth group on campus.
Ah, okay.
So it was long before Grindr when we had to have public meetings to find each other. So
it was in the infancy of the internet.
Oh yeah, it was the LGBTQIA plus organization for Southwest Texas before it was Texas State, and it was interesting because I remember walking to the first meeting and meeting you and Cindy.
Oh, Cindy, I miss her.
I love her. Oh God, and just being flabbergasted that there were this many gay people on campus because I came from San Antonio where there wasn't a whole lot of outness at that time.
I think that was also just the circumstances of your family in high school. I think there were plenty of gay people, but you just didn't know about them.
I sure didn't. I just found them in hiding in bushes and places I shouldn't have been. So
we'll get to that story for another podcast.
This is don't tell your children those stories. So yeah, I grew up on a farm in South Texas, and I went to Texas State. I was ready for adventure, and I found that in Jason. So I really love him. I'm glad that we are still friends.
Oh, I love you, sweetie.
I would have been very sad had we not stayed connected.
Aw. Now, when did you meet Murray? So Murray's your husband, right?
Yes, Murray's my husband.
Okay.
Oh God, you're gonna ask me years. I'm gonna get in trouble. So 14 years ago.
14. Okay, that's.
Yeah, 14 years ago is when we met, and I don't know if I've told you this story yet, but when we first met, we were on our 3rd date, and we went back to my house, and I was like, we need to have a real talk, and I really like you a whole lot. We can have a lot of fun. It's going to be great, but if you don't want kids, I don't know how long this relationship is going to last, because that is something that I look forward to in my life. And we kind of sat there, and he's like, absolutely, I want children. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to make this work, because it's one of my that's one of my goals, was to be able to have children and to be able to be married to somebody that I love. So that was our 3rd date, and that was it. There was no more dating after that. It was kind of a done deal.
Aww.
So you're like lesbians with the U-Haul.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you remember how y'all met?
I do. We'll just leave it at that.
The smile on his face. Wow.
All right.
I saw a picture of Murray. I thought he was a police officer, but he was just wearing aviators. Little did I know. I know he was going to be a lawyer when we started to talk.
Well, I mean, with the handcuffs, I can completely understand why you thought he was
He's my favorite blonde ambition tour.
Aw. So how long were y'all together before y'all got married?
So we were together for 3 years, and then we got married. It was funny because we had only been together kind of 2 years. God, I don't even know now. I feel like it's all kind of a blur. We had not been dating more than a year when I met his family. And I got to meet his entire family at his brother's wedding in Marfa, Texas. So I show up to Marfa, Texas with his whole family, who is a ranching family from West Texas. And I'm just carrying, several suitcases of his clothing, and then walk into a lobby of Hotel Paisano and get to meet all of his people at one time because I'm attending his brother's wedding the next day. So I feel like I was a little bit overwhelmed at that point, but
all right. So for our Alabama listeners, where is Marfa, Texas?
It is in that little.
Is it in the armpit?
It's kind of in the ball sack of Texas. If you go all the way out west, that little dippy piece, that's where Marfa is, far, far west Texas. It's out in the desert, and I love it out there. I've been out there way before I met Murray, and I had driven through his family's ranch many times, going up and down the highway, not knowing that one day I'd be part of his family. And it was just kind of serendipitous going out there and seeing how closely we were connected, but always missing each other. We were always kind of on the wrong rotation to ever meet.
What's funny about this whole situation is, Jennifer doesn't know this, but Jeremiah is an Eagle Scout.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremiah is a rough and tumble, he loves to camp. He takes his family camping constantly. He was, you were a Boy Scout camp leader for years, weren't you?
I was a program director, yes.
Yeah. And so the fact that you married into a big ranching family out in West Texas is just very apropos and poetic.
Well, I think it just kind of, we complement each other. Murray had to sleep outside all of his teenager years, so now he kind of refuses. He's like, no. You can take the kids camping. I will stay home and I'll clean the house where it's air conditioned and it's nice. But we really enjoy going out there and seeing his family and going out to the ranch. It's become a big part of our lives. And so our kids are 9 and 10, like I said, and they can already drive a Polaris. They can just drive around all over the place. I'm comfortable enough now where I can sit in the passenger seat and know I'm not going to die. Because they started driving that when they were 7 and 8.
Yeah, what a dream.
I know. So now they can drive me around and I can have a beer. So it works out perfectly.
There you go.
So, funnily enough, my son works for Polaris, and he may have actually built your Polaris.
Oh, that's really cool. If we ever need a new one, I'm calling you for a discount.
All right, you got it. He actually just started there full-time as a full-time employee. He was a temp for a year, or for over almost a year, I think. And then
how are you a temporary employee at Polaris?
Alabama.
Temp agency.
A temp agency.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
one day I'm going to make it to Alabama proper, not just Mississippi adjacent, and and I will come out to visit you. You got to show me all these Alabama places.
I was about to say you should send your kids out to space camp sometime. They'd love it.
Oh, they wouldn't survive. Space camp wouldn't survive my children, I should say.
I mean, there's Houston.
There's not a space camp in Houston, though.
Oh, they don't have
Oh, it's only in Huntsville.
No. Okay, yeah. I didn't know that. My bad.
So in Texas, in Houston at NASA, you can stay overnight. So a lot of people go for overnight, like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and school trips go overnight. But there's not space camp.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
It's more of a day-long program. And now that I'm a teacher in San Antonio, I've gone to NASA several times, but you have to be up at the ass crack of dawn. You have to be at the school at 4:30 a.m. All the kids are on the bus by 5 a.m. to get to Houston, so you can start their little tour at 8:30 or 9 a.m. So going to NASA to me is not a fun trip. I'm always the teacher that falls asleep, like bobbleheading on the bus. I'm always worried that I'm going to drool. Somebody's going to throw something in my mouth. So that's an exhausting field trip.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
So when 10:30.
So you and Murray got married about, you said, 3 years into dating. So about 11 years ago.
Ooh, you know what? We got married in February of 12.
So
12 years ago.
12, would that be?
I think
that would be 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I'm not good at math.
No, that's right. 12 years. Yeah.
You know what? And that might be the wrong year because now I've been drinking, so we're just going to go with it.
We don't know any better.
Yeah,
so
who cares?
Just erase that part. Don't let him listen to that part.
I won't give him the link. How about that?
Did you do this podcast? Yeah, it was great. Can I listen to it? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
Nope. Can't. Sorry. They had to delete it. He didn't record again. It just didn't happen.
Seems like a theme.
We had my friend Josiah on, not Jeremiah.
Well,
okay, so y'all got hitched in 12, about. So when did y'all start the process of getting knocked up?
Oh my gosh. So we went through a program through the Children's Shelter of San Antonio, and our oldest son was born in 13, and so we started, that process in 12, kind of going through all the classes. We were required to take, I think it was like 54 hours or 55 hours of parenting classes to become foster parents. Yeah, and so we did the foster parent route, foster to adopt, and we did. All the classroom hours, and the first time we got a phone call, we were supposed to foster a 2-year-old, and that fell through. And I got the phone call, and I was at school, and I was really excited. And then that night, the social worker was supposed to bring the child over, and they just never showed up, and they didn't tell us anything. We just kind of waited around, and then we finally found out that foster fell through. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know what was the background, right? They don't tell you that beforehand.
Right.
But we had prepared for intaking this 2-year-old. And then that just fell through, and it was kind of devastating, but it was almost miraculous that we called just a month and a half later for a newborn. So we had all the 2-year-old stuff, but then we rushed out to get all the newborn thing, and we were at the hospital within hours of his birth.
Oh, wow.
And so we've had both of our children since birth.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, so question about when y'all decided to have kids, did y'all look into surrogacy?
Not with any real impetus. Like surrogacy was so out of our price range at that point, because you pay for all the medical care for the surrogate. We kind of half-assed asked some friends of ours. We were like, you're not using your uterus. Obviously, there's, can we rent that? Like, is that open? Like, can we sublet you? But I think, I feel now kind of asinine asking in that way. But we were trying to explore what the options were. And we didn't really, kind of know what they were. And, gay people have been having children and adopting children for a long time, fostering children for a long time. And I was worried that I wouldn't love an adopted child like I would love a biological child. And I had a real fear about that going into this, fostering process. And so we kind of looked at the idea of fostering, and we had to have a lot of very long, kind of painful discussions about, I was worried about myself. Like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't love enough? And I will tell you that was not a problem. I would burn down the world for this child. For both of them. I would blow it up. And so I feel silly now thinking about it. But when you're in that process, you just don't know. You don't know how you're going to feel.
That kind of surprised me, because having known you, you were such a caring and open-hearted and big-hearted person I'm not surprised you got there. I'm just surprised to hear you even had those thoughts, just because of how kind and sweet you are.
Well, yeah, but it's kind and sweet, and I'm not by nature a mean-spirited person, but it was that I think all parents feel that fear going into it and the unknown, and I think even biological parents and straight couples and everybody else kind of goes into it like not knowing how they're going to react. And it's that fear of the unknown. And so I think that was a difficult. Sorry. Like that.
As he licks his cup.
Well, I spilled the wine. I think all parents kind of go through that phase of fear beforehand, and definitely with the uncertainty of fostering to adopt, I think there's also an added layer of it. But I don't know if you felt this way, Jason, specifically, but I felt a lot of pressure to be a better parent than straight people, because in Texas specifically, I was like, there's a lot of folks that don't want me to foster or adopt children. And so I feel like I need to be better than all these other parents. And it's just recently that I've been able to kind of shed some of that pressure, because I realize that all parents are fucked up. Like we're all going to make choices that are not the best ones, and you have to be able to forgive yourself. But did you ever kind of feel that way when you were going through adoption?
Not really. And not because I'm like insanely confident, but it was just like I knew I had a lot of experience as a big brother, because I'd been been a big brother, big sister for 8 years at that time, or no, 6 years at that time. So it was like, and I always knew I had it in my heart to just love a stranger fully. So I wasn't worried about that. But also, like, I don't find myself worrying about what other people think about me a ton, but it's just a weirdness about me that I do have my insecurities, but it's not so much how other people are going to view me. And also I think too, we had enough, like there was a lot of adoption in my family. Like I have, my brother's adopted. I have at least 3 cousins that are adopted. So it's like adoption is just so common in my family. And I've seen how fucked up biological families are. I'm just like, eh. I'm just like, I know I could do better than these assholes. So I wasn't too worried about it. Was that something you ever worried about, Jay?
Well, I'm straight, so.
Well, I know, but like as a single mother, were you ever worried about that?
The straights. No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Do you think that came from your family, Jeremiah?
I don't think it came from my family. I think it came from my own sense of perfection, because I think that it was my own insecurity in knowing myself and being gay, and then also kind of traveling in this world that was really dominated by straight people, right? Like being always like the token gay in this straight ecosystem, and then being able to go out. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think it could have been a touch of your own internalized homophobia?
It may have been, but I think it was more, I wanted to prove I was worthy of having children. I didn't have children to prove that. I wanted to prove that gay people were worthy of having children, especially in areas where that may not be very common. You know, we mentioned West Texas, and I've never experienced homophobia in far West Texas, in the most rural and ranching areas of our state. I've never experienced homophobia outright in that sphere. I've experienced it in Central Texas, kind of in East Texas, as you kind of get towards the more, I don't know, Bible Belty, more conservative areas. I've experienced that homophobia before. But San Antonio is relatively safe. And for a long time, Bexar County was where same-sex couples would come to adopt. But it was overwhelmingly lesbian couples. Mm. But I think because I was one of the first gay people that I knew that had children, I felt like I had to maybe overcompensate or be good enough for this child, for our children. And, you know, I think that was something I put on myself, because you don't see same-sex couples, you know, in the park. When you take your kids to the park, you see straight couples, or you see moms there very often. And so it was kind of interesting because I ended up hanging out with the mom group because there just weren't as many dads there. And when I would hang out with the dads, it wouldn't always be as welcoming. Yeah. Now, there was a couple exceptions. I am now the Cub Master for my kids' Cub Scout troop, or Cub Scout pack. And there are several families that I've met, like taking my kids to the park, that have joined the pack. And so I think that perception is shifting. And I think Texas is shifting much more quickly than people kind of realize. So
I will say, I think just knowing you and like the circles that kind of you existed in and the circles I existed in, I surrounded myself with queers in college and in my life, and allies like Jennifer. And you still maintain a pretty heavy, like you have gay friends, but from what I remember in college, it was like you maintained a lot of your own straight friends from earlier, and you were able to fit in really well with them. But I never, like, growing up, I never had a group of straight people I fit in with. It was always, I had to find the queers to fit in. So I don't know. Like, I always felt othered and outside, so I never looked for it. So I think that's just a difference in our life experiences, but it's whatever. Now, I did want to go back a little bit, though. When y'all started looking, did y'all look into infant adoption at all?
So we didn't look through infant adoption specifically. We knew we wanted to adopt an infant. And through the Texas Child Protective Services program, you can actually choose the age group that you're interested in. And it's like infant to 2 2 to 7, 7 to 13, and like 13 and over. I completely made that up if anybody's listening from CPS. But it's kind of those age ranges, right? You have these bands of ranges. And when we were doing our family study, we specifically said we wanted to do foster to adopt for infant. And so we were lucky that we could choose that age group.
Now, remind me, in Texas, don't y'all get the option to like, you can foster like kids likely to be available for adoption, and you could also do foster where you're just a temporary home for kids. Right. Is that true?
Yes. So at the time that we were doing this, and we are no longer in that foster program, so things may have shifted, you could do foster to adopt, which is where you are fostering for children who are going to be most likely legally free for adoption. And then you have fostering, where you are parenting the child until their biological parents or their family members of that child are able to go through the adoption process or reunification. So we specifically chose the foster to adopt route for newborns and infants. Okay. So we could choose that.
Are your boys biologically
siblings?
They're not biological sibling, and they may kill me later on. Yeah. So my older son was born at University Hospital here in San Antonio, and my younger son was a baby Moses, which means that he was left at the hospital. We actually have the towels and blankets that he was dropped off in, still kind of in the closet, kind of hidden away. And it's been interesting to kind of talk about the adoption in terms that they understand a little bit. It's a very uncomfortable conversation to have. When my oldest son, who talks about it more often, was, 5 and 6, he was asking questions like, why did my mom give me away? And we were lucky enough to have met her once. My husband actually met her, and she knew that we were a gay couple. And finding out that we were a gay couple, her brother was gay, and she said, I was worried that your wife wouldn't be able to love my baby. And then she signed over parental right because we were a gay couple, and because she wanted to honor, I guess, her brother, who had since passed away. We don't have any contact with biological mom because of her own life circumstances. So we don't know anything about her, where she is, or what happened after that. But she had her own problems, which led to foster and the adoption process. And there's going to be a point where we have to have really difficult conversations with our older son, about addiction and drug abuse, and so I'm at the point now, because he's 10, when do you divulge some of that to them, and how do you do that in a way that honors the biological parent's decision to do the foster to adopt process? And because that had to be terribly difficult, but also maintains the understanding, that you will always be their parent, no matter where they go or what they do. You are always my child. And I get all weepy. I'm already starting to tear up because parenting's hard. And because of birth circumstances, there's other difficulty, because our oldest son has neonatal abstinence syndrome.
What's that?
That means he was addicted to drugs when he was. So we went through the entire NICU process, and so he is neurodivergent in ways that are not easy. They're not easy, and make kind of his everyday life a little bit more difficult. So even trying to pave that pathway and talk about why you are like you are without making it seem like it was a burden, because that's never what I want him to.
Right.
So, our younger son, he seems a lot more relaxed about it, but I will tell you, I am terrified of 23andMe, because I'm like, because that baby Moses program saves lives, undoubtedly saves infant lives. But going one day he's going to be like, so there's this swab I can do, and you're like, okay, if we're going to open this box, we're going to open it together, but I'm not ready. You have to be 18. Can we do this when you're 18? When you're 18.
I don't think you should fear it. I mean, it'll be hard, but I don't think you should have to fear.
Yeah. you know.
I know. Well, speaking of 23andMe, do you remember Lindsay? We've had her on the podcast, actually. She actually found her biological parents through 23andMe.
Oh, did she?
And have I told you that story?
You have not.
So Lindsay, who's been on the podcast, and Jennifer knows her and good friends with her now, she did her 23. She was adopted when her parents were like in high school, and she did 23andMe a few years ago, and she found them in Houston, and her parents are still together. Her biological parents never broke up, and she has a full biological brother in Houston who looks you could tell they're siblings from a mile away.
Oh, that's amazing. Do they have a relationship now? Yeah,
they do. She's actually, I feel bad because she's having a falling out with her parent, her real parents, or not real, her adoptive parents. And so she's like, they've been dad's been a bit toxic, so she's been kind of relying more on the biological parents. So it's been tough, but
that's so interesting because, you think about like, do my children have siblings somewhere that we don't know about?
They might. It'd be an adventure you're going to go on in a few more years.
I can hold off on that for a minute. I'm not ready. Can we get through fifth grade?
Your youngest is in fifth grade?
My oldest is in fifth grade. They're fourth and fifth.
Kalia just started fifth grade this year.
Bless you. I'll light a candle. I'll clap in the corner. I will do whatever you need.
She's actually doing... Jennifer's the one who's having the hard time with her kid, not me. Kalia's actually pretty easy.
How old are your children, Jennifer?
I have one, and that is more than enough. He's 13. He just started 7th grade. So I'm going through teenage and hormones. And
that was my screen name in college.
Teenage hormones?
No, just hormones.
Oh, okay.
Because you were a whore and you moaned.
I mean, I want 5th grade back, to be honest, because this is not fun. Be having a teenager.
So I will tell you, I teach middle school. So okay. I have those kids now as students, and they are a hot mess, and I love them. They're so funny because I can send them home too. Like I don't have to listen to it all day long. I can be like, and now go on to your next class, and now you may go on.
Bye-bye.
So what are we looking forward to? Because I live in a frat house. Jason at least has females in his life, in his home. We live in a frat house. It's just all boys. Even the dog's a boy. I mean, we're all boys. It's just boys. So I'm waiting to hear about this 13-year-old boy situation.
His room is always gross.
So yeah, he is, so he actually knows that he has siblings.
Okay.
And because you were talking, if your boys have siblings. So my son knows he has siblings. I don't know if he knows how many he has, but he's actually, I think, the 5th or 6th of 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And he asked about them. I'm like, you gotta wait until you're at 18 to look them up because they won't give you any information. So I actually get to use that line about the 18. Because they don't give you any information like names or anything like that. But yeah, to look forward to, I found a jar of pee, not a jar, but like a water bottle filled with pee just in his room. Because he didn't want to get up to go pee. I guess his Roblox game was just so riveting that, he had to just pee in his room and then put it on the windowsill.
Oh, wow. Perfect.
Yeah.
So my kids pee in the backyard. They don't go to the bathroom because the back door is closer. Again, welcome to Texas. They walk out, and I had to actually ask them to pee in a different spot because I could smell the pee. Because they peed on the same bush every single time. I'm like, if you're going to sprinkle it, like, just let it, like, spread it all over.
Don't kill the bush.
I was about to say, I distinctly remember right after you got those boys talking about how you were excited. He was like, oh, we don't have to worry about water bills. They'll just piss outside like I do. I'm like,
They may have seen me do it once or twice, but I at least sprinkle when I go. I choose a new location. I don't go to the closest.
I'm like your sons. I open my garage door and I have this one little spot in the backyard where I just go piss. I'm like, whatever.
Must be a Texas thing.
It's a boy. It's a boy thing.
I think it's a boy thing.
The world is your urinal.
What are you going to pee on today? I don't know. That stick, this tree. We'll leave to school in the morning, and my kids will stop. We have this giant oak tree in front of our house, and thank God it's there because they'll stand behind it and pee. They're like, "Well, I had to pee before we left." I'm like, "We just left the house 5 steps ago. You waited till we got to the tree to go pee." Well, yeah, before we get in the car. Like, oh my God.
Dad.
Yeah, stupid. What do you mean? Have to pee inside? That's Satan's work over there. Lifting toilet seats.
You're wasting water when you're going to pee inside.
Oh no.
So like Jennifer and I go. You go ahead. What were you going to say?
Start laughing. So my son, I can't believe I'm saying this in public. So we have a pool, and he was 4. He just got out of the pool, and he's like, "I took a potty." I'm like, "Well, pee over there," and he just squatted down and took a shit outside. Just right there. I still to this day it cracks me. I'm like, I didn't poop in the pool. I'm like, no, you didn't. You just shit in the yard because
Dad told me to.
Yeah, you just said go over there.
You do not go to the bathroom in this pool. You don't pee in this pool. Oh my! Stand outside like God made you. No, just shit in the yard.
Well, that is so funny. So, Jennifer and I we're part of a support group for adoptive parents. And do you have like a support group like that in Texas?
I don't. It's funny because Murray and I were talking about that last night. As I said, our son can be difficult at times. And so we were like, when you hit that point where you're just like, oh God, I just need to vent to somebody, but we can only vent to each other. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, well, this isn't working. This is dumb. We don't have a group for adoptive parents, but I have very, very close friends I've been friends with for a very long time that are very lovely. And when we need help or we need a break, and this includes my parents, they're like, all right, y'all looking a little stressed. Here, y'all go do whatever you need to do, and we're going to watch your kids for you. So my kids they have aunties and uncles. And it's funny because we don't have our interactions with our gay friends have dramatically decreased since we've had kids.
Yeah.
But our straight friends are like, we'll watch the little fuckers, let's go. And so it's very different. Because they're ready. Like they're ready to strap on the rifle and head out to the prairie with them. And I think, we talked about a lot of my close friendships before I met you, Jason, were all these people from scouting. And it's still those friends from scouting that are my friends now.
Oh, yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
Take them out. They're ready. Yeah, like they go camping together and they're like, you want to sleep in? I'm like, you angel from heaven. Where did you come from? Yes, I would love to. And they take my children from me. We'll take them on a walk. It's amazing to have friends that you've had for that long who care about you enough and care about your spouse enough to say, yeah, we'll totally babysit your kids. We'll totally watch them.
We actually had an episode yours will come out. This episode will come out probably 3 weeks from now. But we actually did an episode that'll come up a couple of weeks called about isolation, just how isolating it can be as a parent. But especially if you don't have a
village.
A good support system. But yeah, gay men especially, it's unless they really want kids, they're don't expect to see them.
Yeah, they're like, oh, kids. It's really funny. And I totally understand. My kids are like honey badgers, and it's hard because you can't just you have to parent our children 110% of the time. If you are not watching them, there's a fire or an earthquake or your kitchen's destroyed. Something has happened. And, we can't just take our kids to somebody's house and be like, could y'all just be chill and watch a show? Because it will not happen. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We tried that one time. And our friends are lovely. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And we thought the kids were playing outside, and they were playing in their barn, in their toy barn. it's a lesbian couple. They have lots of toys like SUVs and like Polaris and lawnmowers, and those kids turned on every light switch they could find on the vehicles. Keys were missing. They had to jump vehicles, and they were like, hey guys, maybe next time y'all come out, don't bring the kids. And I was like, I get it. I understand. I know. But again, and they love our kids, but it's hard to be social with them. Like, that isolation has been hard a little bit. And I think more so on my husband, because his best friend passed away, not from COVID, but during the beginning of the COVID pandemic. His best friend passed away from other medical condition. He had a genetic condition that was going to lead to his death, and it just happened to coincide with that time. And so I think that isolated my husband much more than people realize. And I think we're still trying to work on that now. And it's been, not to brag, it's been my people that have really taken him in and made sure that he knows that he is loved and appreciated. And that's been helpful, not just for our kids, but for my family. And
that's awesome.
I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of those people.
I was about to say, I remember in college you had a very tight-knit group of friends that you had always been close with, and they followed you through college and after. So I was like, that's awesome.
And ironically, I think, most of them do not have children.
Really?
Most of my straight friends don't have children, yeah. Like, all my closest ones are like, yours are enough. I'm like, that's great. That's cool. That's perfect.
They're probably looking at you, you fool. Yeah, my granddaughter Kalia, she lives with us. I'm always trying to like encourage her to babysit. Just I'm like, learn to not like children so you don't have any.
Well, it's so interesting because I thought that they would have all had children, and they're just like, no, we're just not doing it. Like, all of my closest friends, none of them have children. It's
so
mind-boggling to me. And it's not because they didn't want children, but they're like, yeah, the circumstances just didn't work, and now, we're used to not having them. I'm like, all right, cool. So you're going to babysit on Friday? Because I would like to go see a movie.
Papa needs a break.
I want a date night. Please and thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So I know, like, for us, because we adopted like older kids, our kids usually, foster kids, especially if you get them older, have like a plethora of diagnoses. Do y'all's have a plethora themselves?
Absolutely. We are absolutely part of that constellation of thing. But I think it's because both of my children were exposed in utero to drug that it's been difficult. And we had an amazing therapist, and she has just moved, so now we're on the hunt for like a new therapist to send the boys to. And that's so hard because I had a great relationship with her. And it's a lot of loss. There's the trauma of losing a biological parent, and then there's also losing like your therapist. And my oldest son was very close to his special ed teacher, who passed away suddenly last year during the school year. And so it's just kind of been, this year has been a little bit tougher than I anticipated. But I feel like now that the school year has started, I have enough space to breathe for a minute because I'm not there all the time. And our kids actually got to go to summer camp this summer. Actually, I shouldn't say they got to. I finally cut the cord enough to allow them to go to summer camp this summer and stay the week. And it was like the hills are alive moment. You're just kind of like spinning outside. Do I have to wake up? No. Do I have to remember your medication schedule? No. I can just get up and do whatever I want. Do I want coffee? Yes. Do I want to lay here? Absolutely. And so my kids were super excited about it. And it was camp. It was a camp in West Texas. I'm telling you, girl, come on to Texas. But it was a camp where my husband was a counselor when he was a teenager.
Did you marry another Boy Scout?
I did not. He was not a Boy Scout. He worked at a camp in West Texas that's also a dude ranch. So our kids learned how to ride horses, saddle horses. They got to be in a rodeo at the end of the week. I will text you pictures of those kids.
I was about to say, you better text me the link for that thing. I'm going to send Kalia.
And Wesley.
Oh yeah. And here's the deal, y'all. It is only $900 a week for a sleepaway.
That's cheap as hell. That's cheap as hell.
I know. And it is like
Jennifer, so for our audio listeners, Jennifer's giving me a crazy look, but that is like space camp is $1,200 a week. And that's in the city.
I'm not going to do that.
Well, I know you're not going to do it.
Fly them to Texas or drive them to Texas.
We'll fly them to Jeremiah.
I'll just take them all. It'll be like wagon train. So, just to clarify for your listeners, like our house is 6 hours away from our ranch. So when we go to the ranch, it's like a haul. Like it's not just like down the street. We're talking Texas time. Like we're gonna go to the ranch. It's 6 hours door to door. So and so that summer camp is out by the ranch, and so of course they're cousins But it was amazing. It was amazing for our kids to go out there. I recommend it highly.
I'll get the link from you because I kind of want to send Kalia. I think Kalia she's been asking about riding horses and shit like that. So.
Oh my god!
She'll want to do a rodeo.
Shit, our kids are like, "Can we buy a horse now?" I'm like, "No, we're not." So we live in the middle of San Antonio, and I was like, "We're not buying a horse. We don't have the room." And my parents still live on the farm where I grew up, and they're like, "Well." They're called Lolly and Pop. Just gag right now. Aww. So they're like Lolly and Pop can get a horse for us, right? I'm like, oh, you have to ask.
I was about to say you're married to a lawyer. Get those kids, get them babies a horse.
We're not getting a child. You don't know how much a horse is. Shit.
You can go half seas with Lolly and Pop. I mean, come on, fine. Get them babies a horse.
Get them babies a horse. They need a horse. I'm actually looking into horseback riding lessons in town because my older son really loved it so much, and he talks about his horse still. He's like, my horse Paco, he didn't like other horses. He would run after them and bite them on the butt. And I was like, oh really? Tell me more. And this camp is like a 1980s summer camp. Like you think of like there's no. They're like, whatever, we're gonna go raid a girl's cabin. It's great. Here's your shaving cream, kids. Go for it. And it's like complete, like I love it. I am not a helicopter parent. I'm like, go forth, go live your life, and I'll tell you a
shit
story.
In the yard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, save your story for story time.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think I can't think of any other question. How are you nervous about junior high and how that's going to go? Because it's pretty close.
I know our kids' balls haven't dropped yet, so we're still safe. I'm not worried about junior high because junior high boys have a very narrow scope of focus, and it is looking good enough to be in with the other boys, and I don't think we have a problem with that. Will
you be there? Will they be at your school?
They are at my school, yeah.
Okay.
So they ignore me largely at school. They're like, "Who's that adult that I live with over there?" So it's really funny. They try to side eye you and they like smile, but then they go with their friends.
Oh, that's precious.
What do they call you and your husband?
So I am Pop and Daddy. So
Pop and Daddy?
So they call me Papa. They call me Papa and they call him Daddy. And my father is actually Pop. So.
Aww. And does Murray call you Daddy?
He does not. He does not. He is a delicate flower.
So he calls you Father?
It's very Mike Pence. It makes me feel dirty.
That's so funny.
Sorry, I had to. It was right there. You opened the door. I just walked right through.
So your parents are Lolly and Pop. What are Murray's parents?
So Murray's father has passed away right before our kids were born. He was amazing. Amazing. He would have been a rock star grandpa. Mean as shit and funny as hell. But we call grandma Tita, which is short for abuelita. So it's like little grandmother Tita. Mm-hmm. So there was, and my mother-in-law's mother, Tita's mother, was Big Tita, and now there's little Tita. So this is Tita.
Aww.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's precious. All right. Well, I think we're in a transition spot. So, what we haven't normally at this time, we talk about what we're snacking on because it's just so rushed. Jennifer and I are snacking on some sharp cheddar. Did Murray ever get you a snack?
No. He just left me with a box of wine. Shut the door.
Well, not the worst thing you could have done.
Fend for yourself.
That's
You could
right.
have, sent the boys in to shit on the desk or something.
Or piss in a Nalgene bottle.
There you go.
All right, so we're skipping to snack time. So now it's time for story time. Jeremiah, tell us that story you were holding on to.
Oh my gosh, about the ditch children?
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So we live in an area that has a dry creek bed that runs through our neighborhood. And so we allow our children to go play in the ditch. We're like, go play in the ditch. It's fine. Go down there and do whatever you're going to do. Don't die. Come back home. And so our kids have been playing in the ditch for months at this point. And there's a whole gaggle of ditch children because that ditch runs perpendicular to all the streets in the neighborhood. So it's kind of where all the kids meet up in that ditch to play together. And, they've been playing in the ditch, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. No big deal. One day they're out playing in the ditch and we get a knock on our door. And we're like, oh, I guess it's like, UPS or whatever, Amazon, and they keep knocking. I'm like, well, I guess we got to go answer that. And it's a police officer asking us if we know where our children are. And I was like, in the ditch? Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, they're in the ditch. They're down there. They're in the ditch. He's like, do you know about the fort they're building? I'm like, well, yeah, they've come and talked to us about their fort with their friends. He's like, well, we got a complaint from one of the folks that live along the creek because your children have constructed a shelter using their privacy fence and power tools.
They stole their power tools?
No, this father down the street was like, sure, kids, I'll help you build a clubhouse. And then asked the 10-year-old, do you have permission? And the 10-year-old's like, yes, we have permission to build onto the back of these people's privacy fence. Absolutely. So this guy works in construction and has 3 brain cells. And so he's helping them build this like ramshackle clubhouse out in this ditch. And the police officer's like, well, your kids have been building a shelter down there. I'm like, okay. He's like, it's attached to their fence. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I think you need to follow me down and talk to your neighbors. And I was like, oh no, okay, yes, officer. Like, let me put my pants on and we'll go on down. And
let me get my lawyer husband real quick.
God. Yeah, yeah. Murray was there. He was there. The wife found the shelter behind her house and thought it was a homeless person creating an encampment in the alleyway.
I mean, that's a legitimate concern.
Yes. It was a fairly well-constructed structure where most of my power tools had been smuggled out of the house and been used in the construction. We have a little battery-powered fan for camping. It was in there. My son's bike was hidden in there. And we had let them watch Stranger Things. And they had written Hellfire Club on these people's fence. So I look like parent of the year right there. Like, I had no idea they had been doing this for weeks or whatever, however long they've been doing it. And we had to say, yes, we will remove this mattress that we've never seen before from the shelter. We will remove the power tools, and I will power wash Hellfire Club off your fence. And then the guy proceeds to tell me that I'm a horrible parent because there are snakes in the alleyway or in the ditch. And I'm like, well, they're fine. My kids know not to mess with snakes. They just poke them with sticks. He did not find it amusing that I was so laissez-faire about it. But that's the first time that we had the cops called to our house for my children. I'm afraid that it will not be the last time the cops may be called, but I was not expecting it so soon. The kids are no longer allowed to take power tools to the ditch. Because that seemed like the logical solution. And so they still go play down there. The cops haven't showed back up. And we've had to work on boundaries. You can't build on a person's fence, but you can build in the floodplain. So that's kind of where we are right now.
And don't ask adults to help you build something.
Don't tell adults it's okay. Let the adult make the mistake on their own. Adults make their own mistakes. Yeah. And that guy, I'm like, dude, don't ask a 10-year-old. Do you have permission? They're going to lie to you. Absolutely, 100% of the time. God.
That was a good story.
That was
I got
crazy
more.
Story.
Well, we got time for one more if you want to do it. Just got.
Oh, do you want to hear about the time that my son showed up to the house with uncut rubies and $30?
Sure.
All right. Back to the ditch we go. Back to the ditch. So this is why I have no hammers in my house. In the ditch, there are rocks that sometimes contain crystals, like geodes, because of the geology that's here. And it's a natural stream bed. So they decide that they are going to be geologists, and they're down there cracking rocks with my hammers. Every hammer I own is in the ditch. Somewhere. I don't even know where they are. And so they decide that they're going to start charging the people that walk by the ditch, that are walking their dogs or exercising. They're going to start asking for donations for their research. So people start giving them fucking money. They're like, would you like to fund our research? And people start giving them like dollar bills. I'm like, where is my kid getting this money from? This is going on for like a week. I'm like, where is this money like showing up in your pocket?
That is so funny.
And then one day, it's Saturday, and he like, can I borrow the wagon? I'm like, sure, whatever. Go down to the ditch. I must preface this by saying this is pre-police officer ditch time.
Right.
It's before police officer? BPO. So apparently he went to the ditch, loaded up all the crystals they had found, walked a street up from our street, and started going door to door selling crystals to the neighborhood.
Is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He is, this little shit. And then people paid him money for these rocks, and he went around past our street and down the street behind us because he wasn't coming on our street. Somebody might report him. He comes home, he's like, look, these people gave me these rocks. Aren't they nice? I'm like, these are uncut gemstones. This is great. Okay, where did you get these? I went to inside of a person's house and they gave them to me. What person's house did you go into to get these gemstones?
Oh my God.
And I didn't know what they were specifically. I just knew that they were really pretty rocks. Down the street around the corner, we have a neighbor we call Gigi, and her husband had passed away, and he liked to collect rocks and gemstones. So he had passed away, and when my son went by and said, hey, I'm selling these crystals, she's like, come in. Thank God we knew who she was. I'm hoping that's why he went in. And she's like, here, you can take these uncut amethyst and uncut rubies. I think there's an emerald in there. Take them back to your house because he really loved rocks. So sure enough, he shows up back at the house with like a box of uncut gemstones, $30 that random people had paid him, and like a wagon with no hammers. So I still have no hammers, and he has a bunch of money, and I feel like he robbed a bank because I have to go figure out where the gemstones came from. So thankfully, he walked me back to Gigi's house, and I felt much better about my parenting because he wasn't just in some random stranger's home. Like,
oh my
yes,
God.
Please show me your rocks. It's like, do you want candy, little boy? Absolutely, 100%. I will go in. So I feel like I'm winning so far because the odds are in my favor. Like, nothing has happened. It's okay. He's an entrepreneur. And I've used that money to buy
to replace your hammers, hopefully.
No. I have 2 hammers left now. I have one hammer that's completely rusted, and I have this itty bitty little, tiny little hammer for hanging pictures. It's not even a hammer; it's just like a And so
it's a ham.
Yeah, it's just a myrrh. So let your kids run free. It will never be boring.
I'm about to say I got to kick my daughter or granddaughter out of the house so she'll go explore. Well, I'm about to say that's not true for Jennifer. She let her son explore our neighborhood, and we'll tell you that privately.
Yeah.
So we're going to stop recording. We'll get another cup of wine.
Yes.
Well, let's say we're already at an hour, so I think it's a good point to stop. So for all our 25 listeners, thanks for listening to another episode of A Guide to Poor Parenting. If you have any funny stories about your kids,
or if you need some bad parenting advice or have any ideas for topics,
please email us at guidetopoorparenting@gmail.com.
If you like our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening on.
And if you don't like our podcast, just like when our kids get mad at us for not answering random questions, even though we're in the middle of doing something.
Tough shit.
Go Google it, goddammit.
Ask Alexa.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
Y'all.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.